Deep within the fantasy football universe, there lies undeniable hope that one will have the opportunity to achieve success within their respective fantasy league. Unfortunately, not everyone will experience that gratification. In order to develop the definitive blueprint that will ensure triumph over the opposition, it will require preparation and knowledge. This is where I, Thanos, will lend aid and provide an exceptionally valuable tool to ensure victory in fantasy football. Navigate your way to www.averagejoenation.com and purchase the 2019 Draft Loadout. Once one is granted access, the possibilities are endless. Now that you have the knowledge to unlock the potential for fantasy league dominance, the key to attaining this advantage and league supremacy is as easy as a simple snap of the fingers.
Here we go. Welcome, Average Joe Nation from around the globe. Props to you for staying up to date and keeping in the know. With fantasy football, man, very soon you'll reign. The knowledge that these three guys have, man, it is insane. Yeah, fantasy football talk hateful eight, they wear the crown. Hold it down. Pickle, Blackburn, and Trimboli, hold it down. Pulling up to the recording studio, we're getting loud. Getting ready, headphones on, red light go, break it down.
Welcome back to the Hateful Eight Fantasy Football Podcast with your host. I'm Pickle, and with me, as always, Trimboli.
What's going on?
Not today, though. Blackburn took a vacation.
Much needed, much deserved.
Rightfully so. He decided to take a vacation. He's living the life up in the beach somewhere down in Florida. So
hey, he's tanning the cheeks.
He's tanning the cheeks, indeed. Which ones we won't tell. Anyways, but yeah, today we decided to go ahead and kind of make it a simplified show since there's only going to be two of us. So we decided to go ahead and do another mock draft for the year, this time with the rookies. So you can kind of get to see like the overall layout of how things are kind of changing for positive, negative for different players. But that's the main thing for today's segment. Obviously, we'll have some fantasy news and notes, as well as just general conversation back and forth about it. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also find us on YouTube. You can find us, we're on Sundays at 4 p.m. on DATV, as well as 10:30 Friday nights. So we're on the podcast side of things as well as a big thing. So it's good to actually be back recording.
Yeah,
I will say that. So we're glad that everything's good to go with. We were taken care of from the tornado side of things. Most of you know that there was a tornado that hit Dayton. We won't go too much into detail, but there are a lot of people out there that are still hurt and devastated from this situation. So if you can give, we'll put in a link in the YouTube as well as in the podcast side to help donate financially to help these people out, because I mean, when you come through this area, you can see devastation, and I mean, and then you just feel bad for the people that are dealing with the problems that they're having to deal with. I mean, I can't even imagine having to go through the process that they're going through. So
right, yeah, seeing it firsthand, it's pretty astounding. But if you don't want to donate through the Red Cross and you still want to do it locally, I will also put links into like churches and charities that you can locally donate to each city and area that was affected. So.
Okay. So, yeah, so we'll put those in the podcast as well as the YouTube links. And if you're watching us on DATV, you probably are aware of the situation going on, and you have your own probably affiliation that you're already donating to or know where to go to. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the first segment today, Fantasy News and Notes.
Fantasy News and Notes.
All right, Fantasy News and Notes presented by Sleeper. If you're wanting to stay up to date on anything fantasy football related, it's the app to have. It's bar none the best thing you can have. It incorporates not just the tweets that players may be putting out, but coaches, beat writers, anybody related to the NFL bubble, important-wise, they make sure it gets pushed in for notification purposes. Plus, you can also play your fantasy leagues in here, which is another big thing.
It's what we use for our league of records.
So that's the big thing that you got to have, and I mean it's just fun, and it's fully customizational. And they also make sure they take care of any bugs that you may have. They are like really quick to get back to you if you have any issues. So
if you guys are like me, that's always on the go. I love my phone. I'm on it all the time.
Right.
The Sleeper app is so easy to use. It's one of the easiest out there. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, you can start your mock drafts if you're mock drafting, or if you're in a regular draft and somebody's like, "Hey, I got to take a call," or "Hey, I got to step away for dinner." You can pause your draft, which is cool.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get in. Not a whole lot of news, but the big one I would say, one of the bigger ones kind of for this week, as Matt LaCosse has a great chance to be the Patriots tight end this season following the cutting of ASJ from the Patriots. So now Matt LaCosse basically steps in as that tight end 1, and this is what you're looking at.
Right. Well, and don't totally rule out ASJ. He stepped away for personal reasons. He was gonna step away anyways, and then the team just decided to outright release him. So there's still room for him to potentially come back at some point. We'll see what happens. But yeah, at the current moment, LaCosse is your number 1.
Right. So
You buying into LaCosse?
No, because I don't think he's anything personal, but I don't think he's anything special. I don't think he's got that upper echelon tight end potential that Gronk was, or what you could get out of maybe ASJ. Even though ASJ isn't anywhere in the Gronk tier, he had enough athletic ability. He was kind of in that Jordan Reed-esque talent that he could do enough to be a tight end 1, but not probably in that top 5 tight end spot, where I think LaCosse is going to get jumbled into the back end of that tight end 2 area. Or he's going to get jumbled into the tight end 2 area, I should say.
If this plays out and LaCosse is your number 1 week 1, I see people are going to jump on him. And they're buying into the hype what Gronk was. Problem is, it doesn't work that way. We saw what happened when Jimmy Graham left the Saints.
Right.
It's not been the same there. It's not like you can just plug in any tight end just because it's a good tight end system.
Right. And I think
great.
And I was going to say, the biggest thing that I've found out with kind of doing some research on Bill Belichick specifically and how his coaching style is and whatnot, he makes below average players average. He makes average players good. He makes good players great, and he makes great players excellent. And that's the kind of the thing. So if you're getting Matt LaCosse, I think he's good. He's good with Belichick. I don't think he's anything more than that.
Yeah.
I think he may have some weeks where he is a tight end 1 potential, but it's all matchup based. But are you drafting this guy as your tight end 1 on your roster to potentially have him as that?
He's you can't draft him.
Okay, so we're on the same page. More news. Browns running back Duke Johnson confirmed to reporters that he still wants to be traded out of Cleveland. It sounded like he was a little I don't want to say like bitter, but you could tell that he was trying to point out that he was not the first one to request a trade.
Right.
It was the Browns put him on the trade block. He didn't know, apparently, it sounded like he didn't know he was on the trade block, so that when he approached them, apparently a few weeks later after, when he was like, hey, you know what, I think I'd like to get traded, they kind of was like, well, we kind of already had you on the block type thing. And I think that's where the frustration, and now there's definitely a wedge and a separation. Even if you listen to Baker Mayfield's recent interview, if you go on YouTube or anywhere sports related and just find it, he pretty much put Duke Johnson in his place in the sense that he was like, if he's here, great. He's a professional. He knows what he's doing. If he's not, it is what it is. So
Let's see if they can weather that storm, though, because Duke's going to probably be here.
I'm thinking Duke's going to be here till the trade deadline is my guess, unless there's some great deal that comes down the pipe for him. Honestly, there's no reason for them to get rid of him because Kareem Hunt's sitting on a suspension for at least 6 to 7 games.
Yeah. And to be honest, he's already collected his guaranteed money so far.
Right.
So
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting in Cleveland, though.
It is because OBJ showed up.
Now listen, Baker called him out. He said, "Get on the hype train." I'm on it. So
right.
Come on, Duke, get on with me.
Right. New Jets running back Le'Veon Bell has reported to the Jets minicamp finally, officially, which is great. That's what you want to see. I know there was a big bunch of guff about him not showing up and the rumors and the kind of sidebar comments coming out about Gay saying it's not that we don't want Bell, but we just don't want to pay a lot of money, so on and so forth. I'm glad to see him in, and I saw him kind of run through some drills. He looked fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like the out-of-shape, overweight guy that everybody was supposedly saying that he was.
Hey, he's doing the right things. He's been quiet. He's not been talking. He's showing up when he needs to be there. I think I like what's going on so far. I just want him to be good because it makes fantasy football good. So
right. So we'll see. And then this one kind of came out. Miles Sanders dealing with a hamstring was set out Monday's practice. It's Thursday, obviously, today. So he, from my understanding, he's still not practicing. He's kind of taking it easy. But we all know how hamstring injuries can kind of linger.
Yep.
See Marlon Mack last year specifically. So I just think that's what we're dealing with Marlon Mack, potentially with Miles Sanders.
Right.
Now.
And Doug Peterson said they're going to take it very lightly with him. They say the season's still a long way away. But, then Coach Talk came out. He's actively in practice. He's engaged in meetings. So
right.
I still think Miles Sanders is going to be okay, and he's going to have a heavy workload. So
Right. All right, last one. As we commented, Patriots did end up cutting Austin Seferian-Jenkins first day of mandatory camp, but as we found out, it's kind of a personal thing. So
yeah, he needs to take care of whatever he's got at home first, and then worry about football second.
Right. All right, so that's all we got really for the fantasy news and notes. The main segment today, Mock Draft Mayhem 2.0. Let's get into that.
Time to play the game. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
This is Mock Draft Mayhem.
All right, Mock Draft Mayhem 2.0, presented by Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack has over 1,000 different unique fantasy football trophy combinations. They also have fantasy rings. They have fantasy championship belts. They've also got not just football-related championship trophies. They also have baseball, basketball, whatever you need. And I'm sure good old Matt Walsh, the owner, if you reached out to him and let him know, hey, I've got a cornhole tournament that we want a trophy for, I'm sure he would come up with some sort of cool creative thing for you as well.
Trust me, it'd be there.
So today is Mock Draft Mayhem 2.0, and we decided to draft from the same team. And the biggest thing that we wanted to make sure we used was, obviously, for the draft loadout, we kind of used our projections and overall tiers and stuff like that. So, which you can find in the draft loadout. You can go to averagejoenation.com, sign up, $10 right now. So, I mean, that's best on the market, in my opinion, for what you're getting.
Right.
Once you get in, you'll see what we're talking about. So, but yeah, so for projections and tiers and stuff like that, that's what we kind of used in our draft for this one. We drafted literally out of a 10-man league right in the middle, so there's no good, no bad. It's just you're waiting a while either way.
Well, it's funny. I saw when you picked the spot, I thought it was a perfect spot, 'cause I think it's going to be one of the hardest spots to draft from this year.
Right.
With the way everything's trending right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is, like, if you're in the first couple spots, you're getting one of those top-tier running backs. You're getting Barkley, you're getting Zeke, you're getting CMC. You may even be able to get Kamara, depending on where you're at. And then if you're at the back end of the draft, that's when you're kind of having to be a little bit more strategic, but you're able to get somebody like a Melvin Gordon or maybe a Joe Mixon or a Michael Thomas, James Conner, things like that on the turn that you may have not been able to, obviously, if you're in the middle of the draft. So,
well, with Gronk not here, that turn now becomes interesting because everyone was taking Gronk around the turn last year or in years past, in the second round. Now they're not doing that, so you're required to now take early running backs and wide receivers and get them while you can.
Right. So, and I will tell you, Patrick Mahomes did not slip into the second round as I had seen him in some mock drafts that I've done, thankfully.
Yeah.
Hold your breath.
Still third round.
Hold on to your butts. Anyways, so we're not gonna go like specifically pick by pick. We're gonna kind of talk about the different points where we were kind of looking at things and like, okay, so this guy's got this guy's got that. But as we said, we got the fifth spot. It went Barkley. It went Zeke. David Johnson rolled in at the
four spot.
The four spot.
And CMC went second, yeah.
Second at CMC. So then we're like sitting there, we're like, okay, do we take Hopkins? Do we take Kamara? And to me, I think Kamara is still just a smidge better than what Hopkins is going to bring to the table. I mean, I'm not saying that if we were at the sixth spot and we had only Hopkins to look at, I would have no problem drafting Hopkins. I've said it in years past. I will gladly take Hopkins. I even said it last year. Hopkins over Antonio Brown. I was one of those guys.
Yep.
So I have no problem taking Hopkins, but this is the last of that tier, in my opinion, of top running backs.
I just have a hard time with my first pick not taking a running back, especially when, like you just said, this is a top tier guy.
Right. So when we're looking at that, so we took Alvin Kamara as our first pick, then obviously Hopkins, Adams, Michael Thomas, Melvin Gordon finished out the first round. Then coming back on the second round, it went running back heavy. It went Mixon, Connor, Bell. And that's pretty consistently. I'm really seeing Gordon, Mixon, Connor, and Bell going right about the same spot.
Right.
Within a few picks of each other. That's been pretty spot on in all the mock drafts that I've done. So with people, computer, it just seems that's where they're rolling through, is right around that middle to early second round.
Dude, I love the stack of the two running backs with Gordon and Mixon here. I'm high on Mixon this year. I know I'm a Cincinnati homer, but I also just think he's going to have a big year. So
Right. All right. So then we come through the next pick is Odell Beckham. Juju Smith-Schuster was our second pick, which I'm not going to lie, had Odell Beckham been there, I probably would have taken Odell over Juju, and that's not.
Well, this is the decisions what I meant we're running into now. So we need, if you look at the running back landscape after us, it's not great.
No.
I mean, not what you really want for a stud RB2. You're looking at, do you risk the fact of Juju's he's going to be a top-tier wide receiver. Do you grab him, or do you take the risk with Antonio Brown out there in Oakland?
Yeah, see,
So-
that's the question mark that you're looking at, because Odell, Juju, Antonio Brown, and Mike Evans are all going right around. They're that same group of like wide receivers that I was talking about with the running backs, with Gordon, Mixon, Connor, Bell. They're all going right around the same spot. This is the group of wide receivers that are in that second group that are going right around the same spot. So in the second round, you're really looking, and it just depends on what you want. I mean, do you want a wide receiver, or like for us, if any one of these running backs, Bell, Mixon, Connor, would have rolled back to us at the 2.
No,
second
that's our pick.
That would have been a second pick, easy running back. But with those guys gone, now you're having to take that second tier wide receiver group.
Well, I take it back. There was one other guy out there I'm really looking at now. We could have really looked at was, I think Dalvin Cook could be up there, and Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
those are two guys that we really could have. But I was too afraid if we did that, then the wide receiver run comes, and now you're really hurting.
Right. So then, speaking of that, the number one tight end, Travis Kelce, went at the 209.
Yep.
So 209 spot. So he finished out that. He was the number. I mean, I think he's etched himself into that Gronk tight end tier of being drafted first 2 rounds without question. I mean, I've seen Kelce drafted in the first round, like the last pick of the first round at the turn, which is what you said Gronk had been in years past. So I don't know, man. I think we're getting into dangerous territory when you're taking a tight end number, like it's your second pick in the second round. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying you're putting a lot into this tight end, and you're putting a lot into Patrick Mahomes. That's the thing. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't have his BFF Tyreek Hill right now. He's going to have to supplement that through Mecole Hardman as well as Sammy Watkins, because, yes, in theory, Travis Kelce can be peppered a bunch, but Travis Kelce's not a home run threat. He's not a deep ball threat. He is a short to middle route runner.
He's a volume monster.
Right. He is a red zone guy, and he is a short route runner he's going to be your blanket, your comfort guy. That's the thing we don't know what Patrick Mahomes looks like when he doesn't have a threat over the top in the sense of Tyreek Hill. And that's the biggest concern with Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's what's kind of brought him down to earth in the fantasy relevance-wise, because he's still pretty high, high up there. I'm just saying the air's been let out of the balloon a little bit. Not a lot, but enough.
Little Deflategate kind of thing going on.
There. So
he kind of went in the Patriots camp.
Right. So who finished out the second round for pick-wise?
It was Travis Kelce and then Dalvin Cook.
Okay, so then Dalvin Cook, and then who was at the turn for that guy? So that guy's got Barkley, Cook, and then who was his third
Zach
pick?
Ertz, which is, I don't mind the tight end again at the turn, because he knows you got to take that gamble. You're going to risk on a –
Right.
Do you like the wide receivers that are there because he needs a receiving threat, or do you think the tight end's going to points?
See, that's the thing. And in that offense, in the Philadelphia offense, Zach Ertz is the supreme. He's the guy. He's their Travis Kelce. He's the main threat. So if you missed out on Kelce and you wanted a tight end in the first 3 rounds, Zach Ertz is going right around there as well. So then coming back through the third round, you got Nick Chubb, Adam Thielen, T.Y. Hilton.
Damian Williams won as well.
Oh, that's right. Damian Williams went at the 3-2, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's another thing, interesting-wise. I know a lot of people are like, I don't know, what are we doing with Damian Williams? Well, everything I've heard out of camp, and I know it's coaches talk, and positive is always whatever. It's when you hear the negatives when you could get concerned.
Right.
But they have been nothing but positive in promoting that he is the guy. I mean, even the running, or the new OC, is it, Benamy, or
yeah,
he wrote and he said that he came out and said that Damian's our guy. He's what we want. He's going to be the bell cow essentially. So to me, to make where you're taking Damian Williams at the third as your third pick, or in the third round, his ADP and his projection, we have him basically getting the 200 touches, because he's going to have that to hold this weight of value. Otherwise, he's somewhere in this next group of guys of, like you'll hear of Derrick Henry, Lindsey, Jones. He's in that group. What makes him the main guy in this second group, or whatever, third tier running backs, is the volume potential.
Well, with the top guys in Kansas City, volume's there for Kelce. I think Watkins going to get a ton of volume. Hardman's going to get a ton of volume, and so is Williams here. It's the touchdowns. If those go down from last year tremendously, these guys' value then is really going to start to tank.
Right.
Because, I mean, listen, that offense was explosive last year. They scored a ton of points every week, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for, especially in the early rounds here, you want a guy that's going to score a ton.
Yeah.
And right now, projected out, Damian Williams looks like that guy, because that offense still, to me, looks great.
Right. And I mean, and we've within the loadout, we've done statistical analysis. We've also done previous history of him, as well as the coaches that are there in Kansas City and what they use and tendencies, as well as, I mean, the potential volume we've seen from that running back position in that Kansas City offense. And if all things paint true, I mean, he's kind of, I don't want to put him in the Kareem Hunt like possibility, but he's in that group.
Right.
I mean, he's a top 10 potential running back based on volume alone. And we talk about volume. If a guy is getting 300 touches, there's no way he's in that like middle of the road second group of running backs. Like there's no way he's outside the top 12.
Especially in a PPR, if he's getting receptions on top of the carries, and that's a recipe for success.
And that's what Carlos Hyde is not. Carlos Hyde is going to be the change of pace guy, more so traditional back setup, and he's going to basically be, I mean, he could be a potential red zone threat. But overall, I mean, Damian Williams is the two-headed monster of himself. He can do the pass catching. He can do the running between the tackles.
The offense is going to flow a lot better with him in. He fits the mold. Hyde really doesn't. He's only in there to spell.
Right.
Or give Williams some relief. So.
Right. And I mean, I know that there's some other guys that are kind of in the back behind the curtain for Kansas City potentially running back wise that they could potentially spell even. But I don't see, as long as Williams is producing and positive that we saw last year towards the end, rolling through the fantasy playoffs, there's no way that they can keep him off the field.
Right. Right. I agree.
So then, like we said, we had Nick Chubb come off the board next, who I think him and Williams are kind of in that same group tier-wise because of the volume potential. And especially, but the problem with Nick Chubb is, and this is my only concern with him, and I would have an asterisk if I put for like notes as to any downside potential, is Kareem Hunt. That's my concern. And it's because they brought him in for a reason. He's a highly touted running back. They're willing to take the chance on this guy with an issue, not just off the field, but also he's not looked well upon by the commissioner.
Right.
And we know that once commissioner gets you on his list, it's fine-tuned combing it at every situation you're ever a part of.
The thing is with Hunt, though, he's not even eligible to really play till Week 10 because they have an early bye and he's on an 8-game suspension.
Correct.
So I'm not as worried about Hunt with Chubb here because I'd only be if maybe closer to the playoffs. So if that's something to monitor then, but right now I have no concern with him.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If you take Nick Chubb, based on what you just said with playoff potential, are you looking at taking Kareem Hunt somewhere in the later rounds?
I don't want to waste a roster spot. I love Hunt. Don't get me wrong. He's an explosive player when he plays, and he'd be a great guy to have, especially for your playoff run. But you have to guarantee you're going to be in the playoffs already at the draft. You already know you're going to be there.
Yeah.
There's going to be injuries to top guys potentially. So I don't want a top guy for me to go down.
Right.
I'm already rostering him, and then I'm rostering Hunt on top of that. No, I'm going to wait. I'll probably pick up Hunt in the middle of his suspension if he's there on waivers, especially if I think my team's set up pretty good, and I think playoffs are in the future.
Right. All right. And then coming through, like we said, Thielen. We took T.Y. Hilton at the number 3 spot because I felt like the next set of running backs, it was either I felt like if we could have taken we could have taken Devonta Freeman and Leonard Fournette, who went kind of the back end. I'm just not sold on Leonard Fournette so much right now. I think he's going to be fine. I think that they probably got his head on straight finally for him, and he does as well. And that's the biggest thing for Leonard Fournette was between the ears.
Right.
Both with the coaching staff trusting that he's got it going, he's got it all figured out between his ears now finally, as well as him internally knowing that I got this good. I'm good. I got it. I took a year off.
Yeah.
I took a year off losing it. I'm back. We're good.
If this was standard, Fournette would have been more appeasing to me.
Right.
But with the PPR, I don't buy into him as much.
Right. And I really thought about taking Freeman at this spot, but I just felt like you're giving up to me, I think you're still giving up a good high-volume wide receiver in Hilton, potentially with that power offense in Indianapolis. That's my thing. Indianapolis' offense is scary good.
Well, when we sat at this pick, it's funny. I thought you might make an argument for Freeman. You know me, you can pull on the heartstrings for the running back. I probably would have taken it, but we were both on the same page. We thought Hilton was the best play.
Right. I just felt like you got a young wide receiver and an offense that's going to be high-powered. It's got a good running game. It's got a good quarterback. It's got 2 good tight ends. And now they brought in Devin Funchess to kind of help out. Plus, they got a rookie in Paris Campbell. I mean, there is talent across the board. I mean, I don't want to put it in the same category, but it's kind of almost similar to what you had with the Kansas City offense that basically could score at will. And I feel like, and they actually, the big thing for Kansas City was they didn't have a defense, so they had to put tons of points on the board. They had to score pretty much every drive. The only thing is with Indianapolis is they actually have a pretty decent defense. If you look at them statistically, they actually were in the top, I think, 5 or 6 defense, not just for fantasy purposes, but just overall NFL purposes. So I like T.Y. Hilton. I like him in this spot, and the only other person I probably would have taken other than him was Devonta Freeman, honestly. But
that would have been good as well.
So then Keenan Allen, Devonta Freeman, Leonard Fournette, and Patrick Mahomes rolls out the final pick of the 3rd round. Coming back, then this is the next group of running backs, in my opinion, starts off with Josh Jacobs. We have
Marlon Mack went right before him, but then, yes, Josh Jacobs. You're good.
So finishing out, Marlon Mack was the last one of the pick, and then you had come back through. Who did Marlon Mack, the guy, go after with Marlon Mack after that?
It was Amari Cooper was last.
Okay.
He followed up with Mack.
Gotcha. All right, so then you came back around, and then Josh Jacobs. So Mack, Jacobs are, to me, I think they're both kind of that same relevance. They both can pass catch. They both can kind of do the all-purpose stuff that you need them to do. My only concern with Josh Jacobs, and it's nothing him, it's what is this offense in Oakland going to look like? And that was my big concern with Antonio Brown as well.
Yeah.
What is the offense? Yes, in theory, Antonio Brown's going to be the high-volume guy. He's going to be the one that's going to see the majority of the targets and receptions. Josh Jacobs, same thing, going to see majority of the volume out of the backfield. He's going to see majority of the snaps, majority of the touches. What does that mean, though? If he's getting 200 touches but only getting a yard or two every time, is that really helpful?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We got to see if this offense is going to score points.
I don't know. Derek Carr seems to be all hyped on it, but Derek Carr, I don't know who his mechanic potentially is, but I don't know if he's got all check engine lights are good at this point.
Right.
I'm just wondering if he's got just like alerts going off on the dash and he's just got the tape and puts them over him, just like, nope, we're good. I think that's Gruden. Would that be a good analogy? Like Gruden's like the mechanic that like is questionable and is like, okay, let's just put a piece of tape over the check engine light. He's okay. The car's still good.
He's the guy that's watching YouTube how to fix your car. Come on.
Right. While you're sitting there eating and drinking the coffee in the lounge, he's the one that's like putting duct tape over like certain spots to make sure that you don't notice the errors on the dash. So
I will say, I also looked at when we drafted Hilton. I looked at who needed what. I really thought Jacobs or Mack would fall to us because
I did too.
Where Jacobs was actually drafted, if you take this guy's team, he had been his 3rd running back already with Mahomes as his quarterback. There's no wide receiver yet listed.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. He's got a solid crew through 4. Don't get me wrong with Gordon, Mixon, Mahomes, and Jacobs, but there's no wide receivers at this point. And now you're kind of getting into that 4, 5, 6 tier by the time you're going to get picked potentially if it goes on a run, which thankfully for him it didn't. But so then you come back. It's A.J. Green, who I wouldn't have mind taking, or Stephon Diggs. Derrick Henry, I punt on Derrick Henry. I think the volume is there, and I think the potential, and if you notice in our projections and rankings and everything, we believe that he can be something, but we're putting the emphasis on what could be and what we're expecting. We're not expecting Dion Lewis to be the main volume guy like it was with Matt LaFleur's team. Derrick Henry, I think they figured out that this is the guy, this is the bell cow. So if that's the case, if he's getting 200-plus touches, you have to put him in somewhere in that upper group. I mean, you have to put him somewhere in that top 20 pick. I mean, or for a running back-wise, I mean.
Right. I do like how he was drafted, though. He was a 3rd running back on this team. That's how I would draft Derrick Henry if I had to.
That's my biggest thing with, and I mean, I would agree with you. I think, and Blackburn would be on the same page as well if he was here, would be, if you're taking Derrick Henry, he has to be your 3rd running back. I mean, to feel good. I'm not saying that you can't take a risk and put him as your 2nd, but if you take him as your 2nd, you better pick up another running back just in case. And you'll see when we go through our draft for our running backs, we took a solid one in Kamara, but then as we kind of got to a point where we're like, okay, we need a valid just in case there's an injury or a backup. Otherwise, we're going to be hurting. And that's the thing. As the draft goes, you can have your draft cheat sheet from us, and you can have from anybody else, or you can have whatever you want. But the problem is you have to be able to adapt on the fly, and you have to be like, okay, just because, I mean, if you look at our projections, cheat sheets, or anybody else's, somebody's going to reach for somebody, and you're going to be like, okay, slide them down.
Yeah.
Or you take literally a pick before you. I would have taken Stephon Diggs, the pick before, who went before us. I would have taken him as our 4th pick, potentially.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got drafted right before us, it was like, okay, well, now we got to move on to the next group.
Yeah. Well, see, and the way I sometimes draft is I'll look at a guy. If I think someone's hurting at a certain position, I might draft a guy that maybe I don't need, as long as he's a wide receiver or running back here, and then push a trade.
Yeah.
Like Derrick Henry's a perfect spot here. If he goes here and he does well in week 1, I dump him. I go for a huge trade. I try to buy the hype while it's high because you know what? I don't know if it's going to last all year. That's a ton.
We don't know what we're getting out of Mariota.
Right. Well, he's not, and Henry's not going to catch the ball.
No.
So it's all on the ground. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of wear and tear.
It might be. I might sit on him for a week or two and kind of ride the hype, and then eventually, just like you said, send a trade and be like, okay, you know what? I need a wide receiver 2, or I need a wide receiver 3, depending on how your league format or flex. I need a better flex, or I want a more potential flex. So trade Derrick Henry for a wide receiver, because most people in your leagues, unless they're completely like oblivious to how fantasy football works, are going to trade a running back for a running back, unless there's like another piece with it, like Derrick Henry is going to be traded for a running back 3 and a wide receiver 2. Things like that. I'm just saying where he's sitting at like a top
value.
Right, but I'm just saying if you're sitting at Derrick Henry, because there are people out there that even in our own league that look at name and look at, well, he's a number 5 running back.
Yeah.
So you trade him away to somebody like that who's all in on it, and they think they get a great deal, and 2 weeks later the tires blow out, and now you're sitting there with 2 good players.
Yeah, listen, even trade him away for a week-to-week play.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to play the player with the best matchup. Get rid of the names.
I mean, to me, your flex spot, you want a solid flex. However, the flex is it is what it is. It's a flex. You flex in, you flex out.
Yeah.
Whether it's a that literally it should, if they ever get rid of the flex name, that would be called matchup based spot, because that is the guy that you play depending on the matchup, whether that's a tight end, if that's what your league allows, a running back, or a wide receiver, or if you're in some sort of super league or super flex league that your quarterback can be in that spot. This is where it all changes as well. So I mean, you have to know your draft and know who you're drafting with as well, which most of you, unless you're on like an online random draft with a bunch of randoms, you're probably going to know your league mate style and draft and know what's going to fall to you or not in theory. So all right, so we took George Kittle in the 4th round, and then you had the next couple running backs. You had Aaron Jones, Phillip Lindsay, and who was the other one that went off right after Lindsay?
Oh, David Montgomery, who I really wanted to fall to us next round, and then Sony Michel.
Right.
Either one would have been perfect.
Right. Then so you come back around. Who was the 5-2?
Kenny Galladay and Brandon Cooks.
And then you got Julian Edelman, Kerryon Johnson, and so then we took James White because we needed another running back.
Right.
And at that point, we were looking at James White, Mark Ingram, Tariq Cohen was another one that was in that group. And I just felt like, to me, James White, yes, there's a potential for regression, but the problem is he still catches the ball. He is the pass catcher. He is the guy in that offense, and he has shown year in and year out. And if you look at the running backs that have come through New England, who is still there in New England right now? Deion Lewis isn't.
Nope.
LeGarrette Blount isn't.
Nope.
So
Burkhead might be
out because they brought in Damian Harris.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, James White, I don't know if Belichick owes him money, or Brady does, or they owe him a favor for the Super Bowls that for the playoff booms that he's had, but they can't quit him. I'm sorry.
Right.
They brought in Sony Michel, who ended up being very well down the stretch, and they still factored in James White into the game. And I just think that you're still going to see that with James White. And I just think that in a PPR setting, he is going to see enough volume to be a relevant running back each and every week.
Yeah, and we knew at this point, too, once we took James White, we were going to look at a ton of running backs to put on the roster.
Right.
Which is what you should do anyways. You should be flooding your team with wide receivers and running backs, because you don't know who's going to, A, stay healthy,
right,
and B, who's going to move up and move down.
Correct. So then coming back through, then Mark Ingram went right after us. Calvin Ridley, Andrew Luck was the next quarterback off the board. Robert Woods. So now the guy's got finally a wide receiver on his team, which is
one
fine.
that I love. And then Aaron Rodgers was at the turn.
Yeah.
With Chris Carson coming back, and then Sammy Watkins.
And then you got the next group of running backs starting to show through. Like I said, Kenyon Drake, Deshaun Watson was the next quarterback taken off the list. Cooper Kupp, who I would have loved to fall to us.
Yes.
But that you have to move on, unfortunately. So Chris Godwin was our pick in that spot. And I just think the biggest thing is he's the wide receiver 2 in an offense. And if he plays anywhere even half of his time in the slot in that offense, I think he's going to be fine, honestly. And I think with Arians being the coach, I think that's a boost for him. And because Jameis Winston, I think, is going to be back. I'm banking on Winston being somewhat good. I know that sounds bad, but I'm expecting him being that quarterback 1 talk, like between 1 and 2, or 1 and 12, I mean.
Right. No, and I know you were high on Winston, and I tell you what, though, Godwin's an interesting pick here. Every once in a while in the draft, you have to try to go for a home run you think potentially could be.
Right.
A boomer bust guy. That's what Godwin is for me.
Well, and mind you, he is our 3rd wide receiver,
right,
so that's a chance you can take.
Perfect spot, yeah.
So we're looking at, and Tyler Lockett went after him, Tariq Cohen, and then the next quarterback was
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. So the hype has risen. The hype is real.
Yeah.
So Finishing out the 6th.
He finished the 6th. The start of the 7th was Hill, and then O.J. Howard went.
Okay. So then you got Darius Geis was the next running back, and I like Darius Geis. I'm just concerned on how much volume he's going to see versus Adrian Peterson. That's my concern, because I think Chris Thompson's set on what they're going to do with him. I just don't know, and I don't know what this offense is going to look like.
Right.
And with bringing a guy like Haskins, who's going to be a boom throw down the field, almost like a Mahomes who's got the arm to just throw it, they're going to be pushing the ball down the field, and I just don't know what we're going to see.
Well, and they also used the 4th-round draft pick on a running back. That shows you that they don't feel Geis is as healthy as
what they thought initially.
Right. And I know Blackburn could probably speak on this better. I know he doesn't worry too much about Peterson's role. I don't think he thinks it's going to factor into Geis's as much.
Right.
At least he hasn't shown as much concern, but I still think there's concern with Geis here. To be honest with you, the guy we got, I think we got at a steal at the next one.
Right.
Miles Sanders is who we picked. That's who I was surprised didn't go before Geis.
Right. Now we did mention earlier in the show that Miles Sanders is dealing with a hamstring, but it's okay being that he is our 3rd running back, so we have time to kind of wait and see what we're going to be doing. And as you see in our next pick, you'll see why we brought in this next guy as just insurance for either White or Sanders. So
there's just a few rookies that I really like, Sanders being one of them, Montgomery I'm really high on.
Right.
So I'm glad we got to pick one of them.
All right, so then it was Jarvis Landry, Eric Ebron, Alshon Jeffrey, and DJ Moore. And then who was the final?
Hunter Henry went.
Hunter Henry, so that's fine. And then
the San Francisco Rolodex of running backs, Tevin Coleman. Which one do you think is going to be it?
Right. So. And then we come back, was it Tyler Boyd next?
Yep.
All right, so Tyler Boyd, who I don't mind. I actually like him. I would actually rather take him later than A.J. Green, where A.J. Green's still going.
Right. I think Green's going to have a bounce-back year, but you're right, though. I mean, you're waiting for Tyler Boyd in an 8th round here. That's solid.
And an offense that's got some sort of McVay-esque to it, potentially.
I'm just afraid with him that there's going to be more hype as your actual drafts come in, that he's going to move up. And for me, that's when he's going to get too pricey.
Right. To me, 7th, 8th round is comfortable for me with Tyler Boyd. I feel like if you start pushing him into that 6th and 5th round, that's when we got kind of like we got to pull the eject goose.
The 6th round, I get it. If you're on the ends, I can still probably take Boyd, depending on what I did before that. But you're right. Once you move up any higher than that, you're really, really putting a lot of draft capital in them.
Right. So then coming through, you got Evan Ingram. Kareem Hunt went in the 8th round. Wow. Okay.
See, I don't get that. You're drafting a guy you can't play till week 10.
Well, he also has Henry, Freeman, and Bell, so I guess he's waiting. He's okay to wait. But he also only has one wide receiver with Calvin Ridley at this point. Right. He's got his full starting. No, I take that back. He's got Adams. Okay, so he's got Adams, Ridley, so he can wait. He took a gamble on a guy that may be good to go for the playoffs. So
there you go.
Lamar Miller, and then we took Latavius Murray. I was glad that he fell to us, honestly, because I feel like at this point now we have Kamara. We also have Latavius Murray, so I feel like we have the 1-2 punch. In theory, and this is what Blackburn and I talked about a couple weeks ago, that if you do take Latavius Murray, make sure you wait as long as possible to take him. Don't draft him if you have Kamara and then just take him as a handcuff. Draft him with his own purpose. I mean, He has his own purpose. So, I mean, if there's ever an issue with James White or Miles Sanders is not good to go season start, you could always put in Latavius Murray as a flex spot.
Well, and in our situation right here, where I think our running backs are a little bit weaker than our wide receivers,
right,
it's good to have the guy that's going to replace our number one guy, too, on your roster. So I really like this pick. I'm glad he fell to us.
Right, and that's what you and I were talking about, like, okay, so do we take a quarterback here? Do we try to punt? Do we do this? Do we do that? And I was like, you know what? We talked back and forth in the text, and I was like, all right, I think Latavius Murray is going to be the one we need, because if Kamara goes down, we're out.
Yeah.
We've rang the bell, we've thrown the white flag, it's out. So taking Latavius Murray, I feel like, and Latavius Murray being the main ball carrier has shown over the last couple of years he can be a valuable running back one at times.
Right.
And in that offense, he'll be fine.
See, these are the conversations I think you need to have if you have a joint team or by yourself, is look at your team and see what you need. Don't just draft by who's the next best available. It might not fit your team.
Right.
This is what we needed, so I think we had to take him in this spot. I think wasting it could have been detrimental down the road.
Right. So following that, Darrell Henderson, who is rising up in the draft ADP ranks because of the continual news of Todd Gurley. I'm just concerned that by the time, there was somebody beat writer wise put a joke out there saying, as like the progression of the off season goes, that by the time season starts, Todd Gurley's going to be like up for retirement apparently. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it's that bad. I just think that what you saw down the stretch with Gurley, I think that might be the new norm, where he's not going to see 90% volume. I think you're probably comfortable with him. He's probably seeing somewhere around the 70 to 80%. And he was still valuable when he got that. It was just the games that he either played less than that or didn't play much at all. That's obviously what you don't want with right now I've seen him go in second or even third rounds.
Right. Third round's way too low for him, but
it is.
I would
take it.
Yeah, I would take it in a heartbeat. I'd take him earlier than that, but I'm just saying I think the Rams are looking at it as they know that Goff is better when Kupp and Gurley are on the field. So if they can spell Gurley a little bit, keep him healthy, why not? Listen, they're not here to play fantasy football. They're here to win football games, and that's the way to win it is keep your guys as healthy as possible. So Henderson's going to have value. I still think he's a number one handcuff, though.
Yeah, very much so. All right, so you got Carson Wentz, and then who rounded out the eighth?
Robbie Anderson and Allen Robinson.
Not bad. I mean, those are guys that we're kind of looking at overall.
I'm starting to trend up on old Robbie Anderson.
The offense just if they're just going to gun it and just chuck it down the field and be passing with Bell who can catch. Yep. I mean, I just think this offense is going to be more geared towards pass catching.
As long as that offense takes a step forward this year, which I think it will, that's where you're going to see a ton of value then for Anderson.
Right. All right. So at the 902, who do we have?
Will Fuller was at the 901 and Hardman at the 902.
He's actually trending up. I mean, he was in that 13th, 14th a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about ADP and stuff. He's trending up.
Yeah.
Very quickly. I mean, Sammy Watkins went, 8-2?
Yep. Well,
no, 6-2, sorry. So he's in the 6th round, and then in the 9th round, you're getting Hardman. So
I was going to ask you, I don't know if you noticed this. So this guy took Tyreek Hill, the same person.
Yeah.
And then drafted Hardman.
Oh.
I've never drafted a handcuff wide receiver, but do you think that's what happened here? Because Tyreek Hill technically
is still not suspended.
Still up in the air.
He's not technically officially suspended yet. So
I found this to be an interesting move. I mean, I know this is all computer generated here,
right.
But
that's a different strategy. I don't think I've ever drafted a wide receiver handcuff.
Right.
Like ever.
I don't think does it even exist?
I don't know. I mean, I know guys in the past. I've seen guys who drafted Antonio Brown and then, like in the 5th round, drafted Juju before. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, if I'm drafting 2 wide receivers off the same team, it's probably guys who are in the same roundabout that we just don't know who the wide receiver 2 is on that said team.
Right.
Like right now, like Pittsburgh, is it Washington? I don't know. Is it? I mean, that's my thing. It's like, but I would never draft 2 wide receivers like that. Now, maybe late and like a roll of a dice, but
and the situation here is unique because if Hill's totally out, Hardman's going to be
the 1 or 2.
Yeah. So
I mean, I understand the concept, but man, that's a pretty gutsy
I was just curious
if
you realize that's how it went. So.
No, I didn't realize it until you just said it. I was like, okay, well, that makes no sense. But I mean, it is what it is. It's your own personal prerogative. You draft how you want. So like we said, then coming back around, you got Rashad Penny, Jared Cook, Russell Wilson. We ended up taking at this point, and I felt like we really were talking between Russell Wilson and Drew Brees, but then we kind of we're going back and forth. Like, you know what? We actually already have 2 Saints players.
We have the offense in
pretty much
Orleans,
minus Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. Do we really want to roll that dice? No, I think we'll be okay. So we ended up taking Russell Wilson because I think that even though Russell Wilson did throw a lot less, he still was very productive when he was throwing the ball. I mean, Lockett is going to be a boom thrower. I mean, he's going to be a touchdown. I mean, he's going to be kind of like their Tyreek Hill. He's going to be the home run, boom, touchdown threat. Plus, they've got DK Metcalf, who I think is going to bring some sort of physical presence. Even if he does little to nothing fantasy relevance-wise year 1, him being out on the field as a physical presence is enough.
Right.
To me, at least.
No.
Plus, you got Dilly Disley and all that back there. So
yeah. My only concern with Russell Wilson is he's running less.
Right.
Which that's going to make – he's going to come down then because, like you just said, he's not throwing as much.
Right.
But in this situation for us, listen, I didn't want a bye week where I'm replacing my entire team.
Right.
So I didn't want to run into that.
Right. So for me, Russell Wilson, I agree. I think that he's going to be – I think that their offense is going to be more balanced.
Yeah.
Whatever that may mean.
And these guys are in the same tier. So
right.
I mean, we're not really – we're arguing 10 points
right.
for like a year difference probably.
So like I said, Drew Brees, N'Keal Harry, Ronald Jones, and then Vance McDonald rolling in at 9-9.
And then Allison was on the end, Geronimo.
Right. So then you come back around. Who was after
Jordan Howard, and then the player we just talked about, DK Metcalf.
Okay. So then you roll through with Dante Pettis, who I think is going to be the wide receiver 1 there in San Francisco. So you're able to get in the, what is that, the 10th round, the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco's offense, which I think Shanahan has proven over and over that he's going to be able to get the ball into the playmakers' hands and make them and let them go.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting, this whole offense is basically trending down. I mean,
well, except for George Kittle, everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Tevin
take
Coleman
that
was.
back. You're
Where was
right.
Coleman drafted? 5th or 6th round? Sixth.
Yep.
6th round. So that's the next highest guy.
No, 8th round.
8th round. Okay, so in the 8th round, that was the next highest guy.
Right.
And Jerick McKinnon, just as a spoiler alert, I don't believe he was drafted till what round was he drafted in? I don't even see him on here.
Right here, he's in the 10th.
Okay, so 10th round. So, anyways, so we got Dante Pettis, Royce Freeman, David Njoku, and then Marvin Jones was our pick. I just think that he was the best wide receiver available, and I felt like we needed another wide receiver because we had already gotten 4 running backs. We got 3 wide receivers. We needed another wide receiver to kind of wrap up the group of potential flex rotating.
I think he's going to be a bounce back player too. I don't think that offense is going to be that bad as it was last year. He was banged up too. I have a little hope for Detroit this year. So
I have hope for them. I'm just concerned with the offensive coordinator that came through that they have very much put the emphasis on running the ball more, which is fine for Kerryon Johnson. However, that's not good for Matthew Stafford or the wide receivers, and that may limit the targets for wide receivers.
right. Well,
And that's been the big thing for Detroit is they just pepper the wide receivers and tight ends.
And normally you'd see these guys going a lot earlier, and that's what you see why they're going the
Right.
back half now. But Kerryon Johnson could be a monster.
Could
Throwing
be.
that out there.
C.J. Anderson could be also apparently a monster. Depends on who you talk to.
Jared Cookie monster. That guy's just devouring that.
Just ask the Cowboys defense. As that's coming from a Cowboys fan. Jared Goff, Jerick McKinnon, and then who was
Corey
it?
Davis
Corey
and then
Davis.
Kyler Murray.
Man, Kyler Murray rolling in.
Listen, I might take a flyer on him.
If I have a solid quarterback, or if I'm gonna just punt on quarterback till 11 or 12, and Rivers and Big Ben and these guys are gone, Kyler Murray is not. I mean, he's probably gonna win you some games, and he's gonna lose you some games. But if your team is stacked before him, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
You might be okay. You're gonna be rolling the dice every week with Kyler Murray. I mean, it's kind of like what you had with Baker Mayfield and. I just drew a blank. Josh Allen and these guys from week to week, you're like, oh gosh, what am I going to get? Am I getting the solid quarterback play? Am I getting a top 14 quarterback this week, or am I getting like a 17 to 20 quarterback this week?
Well, I look at it this way. If I had to give you Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson, which one do you feel more comfortable rolling with?
In the current offense that they're going into, man, it's really a close neck-to-neck tie for me between Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. But I just think Kyler Murray has the unknown, and we always know that the unknown, the new quarterbacks that have athletic ability always seem to stun the defenses for their first year. So if I'm rolling the dice, I mean, Lamar Jackson was one of the few that didn't really do it, but also he couldn't throw the ball.
Right.
But
I'm not exactly thrilled with what's around him either. So
I think Kyler Murray's got a top 5 running back. He's got Larry Fitzgerald, a good comfort blanket. They didn't do much with the offensive line, but that's fine because he's a mobile quarterback, and they went air raid wide receiver heavy in the draft. So what do you do with a quarterback that's played in this offense and you got a coach that's going to run the offense that this quarterback is comfortable with? You go draft a bunch of wide receivers.
Yep.
We call it the Detroit Lion experience. All those guys.
I like that one.
But anyways, so I don't mind Kyler Murray this late. I still think that there were some other quarterbacks that I probably would have taken over him on the board. But if, like I said, the guys that I'm talking about, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, some of those guys were gone, I don't have a problem taking Kyler Murray. So, but that's just me
make sure you
personally.
draft them late because you're probably going to be a week-to-week play.
Right. So then we got Chicago Bears. We got Austin Eckler. Phillip Rivers we ended up taking as our second quarterback because just in case something ever were to happen to Russell Wilson. He's usually a pretty solid week-to-week, no injury guy, but he did deal with some injuries and lingering, and we were concerned at times with his ankles 2 years ago. So Phillip Rivers he's a solid top 13 quarterback every year. So why not just take a dice roll on this guy again? And the offense is going to be better.
Now we have a matchup play every week. We can look to see who we like better each week.
Right. So then Sean McCoy, Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk. So both top wide receivers in Arizona's air raid offense went back to back.
Right.
So Jalen Samuels, the handcuff to Connor, which I'm surprised the guy who drafted Connor didn't take him, but that's neither here nor there.
Austin Hooper was on the end, followed up by Carlos Hyde to start.
Yeah. All right. Then Ito Smith. Now we're looking at the running backs that are left essentially are guys that are either not playing right away or backups at this point, or they're handcuffs. Manuel Sanders, Jameis Winston. Then you got the Rams defense, Cortland Sutton we ended up taking, and I just felt like He is the wide receiver 1, and he's a physical threat. And just ask Michael Crabtree about how him and Joe Flacco enjoyed each other's company. So I'm just saying, yes, Emmanuel Sanders is going to be back eventually. You got Deshaun Hamilton's going to be probably the wide receiver 2 to start, and if he does well enough, he'll probably hold off Emmanuel Sanders. But to me, ultimately, Joe Flacco is a 10 and under guy. He's like he's the quarterback that you take to the dime store. It's 10 and under. I'm just saying. He doesn't go over 10 very often. So why
To the dime store.
I'm just saying he's 10 cents. He doesn't throw over 10 yards typically. So
Listen, if we were at Thanksgiving dinner, he's at the kids' table. Let's be honest.
That's true. He's been shunned to the kids' table. Shame. But if you had to take if I'm taking a wide receiver at this point out of the Denver offense, I'm going to take Courtland Sutton. I just think that he has a better opportunity being the physical wide receiver and a lot of red zone threats as well as short yardage opportunities. So he's not going to be the field stretcher like Deshaun Hamilton is, which is exactly what Emmanuel Sanders is, Flacco's not big on. I mean, he doesn't really throw the deep ball very often, but, I mean, John Brown found success.
True.
So maybe, but I just don't know what we're going to get. Are we going to get the 10 and under Joe Flacco, or are we going to get the guy who's going to mix it up a little bit?
You're getting a 10 and under.
Right. So, anyways, so then Kiki Kuti came through, Tom Brady, and then I'm trying to see who the next guy is. At 12-9 was I can't read that. My bad.
Crowell? No.
12-9.
What am I doing?
I don't know.
Going the wrong way. That's why. Geez, Singletary,
who I actually think's a potential replacement for McCoy at some point, and Gore. I mean, he pretty much is. He does exactly what each one of them does separately. So, and that's why they drafted him, I believe.
Right, I agree. Curtis Samuel rounded out the 12th, and Jacksonville started the 13th.
All right. So then who was?
And Cam Newton went after that.
That's not bad at this point.
No.
Dede Westbrook. Then you got T.J. Hawkinson. James Washington was our next pick. So we took the wide receiver 2 essentially there in Pittsburgh. And in worst case scenario, if something were to happen to Juju, James Washington rolls into that wide receiver 1 spot.
So we handcuffed?
We handcuffed apparently, unknowingly. So
listen to this. We started something here.
We did. Deonta Foreman, L.A. Chargers. Jay Ajayi, who has not signed with a team. And then Isaiah Crowell, who I'm pretty sure is out for the year.
Hey.
You know,
solid pickup.
And then wrapped out
Roethlisberger.
And
the run on defenses went Cleveland, Baltimore, Minnesota.
Yeah. Then the kicker started Janikowski, who I think he's retired at this point.
Oh,
but
yeah, it's still solid pick.
Right. Greg Zuerlein. Then we took Tucker because I just felt like if we're going to take a kicker at some point, he's the best. And I mean, I typically will punt on kickers, but I just wanted to kind of show the kickers. If I was going to take a kicker, I'm taking either Will Lutz or Justin Tucker in my opinion, personally, because one's a dome kicker with a good leg and one's a good kicker with a good leg who doesn't often miss. So, and then after that, it was the Texans defense, Will Lutz, and then who was at 14-9?
14-9, hold on.
We rolled out to the end of as we're wrapping up the 14th round.
Back to Cowboys.
Yeah.
Atlanta. How do you say Atlanta's kicker's name?
I don't even know. It's the kicker.
Tavicio.
Yeah, that guy.
Hines, and then Butler.
Okay. And then
Baldwin was somehow drafted.
Apparently. Then Chaim Fairbairn. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyways,
dude, we're butchering
I'm butchering these names. I apologize. And then we took Deion Lewis as like a throwaway pick. I mean, to me, their last pick, if you don't draft it, it's going to be either a defense. You're going to drop somebody for a defense at some point.
Right.
So I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into that pick.
No, and actually, to be honest with you, if I would have been thinking more about it too, I might have said take a flyer on Curtis Samuel just to see what you got there.
Right. So then you got Rob Gronkowski. Apparently this guy's really banking on him coming back. Tyrell Williams, Gostkowski, and then
Kickers
pretty much wrapped it out. So like I said, we kind of like, as you can see as the draft goes, you're like, okay, I'm going to wait on this guy. And I will tell you, for ADP purposes, ADP is more so for like a guideline, a baseline. It's not saying, hey, don't draft this guy before said round. It's saying this is where everybody else values him at this round. But if you value him higher, yes, in theory, in the general consensus, it might be considered a reach for him. But if you think he's the 5th best running back or whatever, or if you think he's in that top 20 picks, and now it's 18, 19, and you realize that it's probably not coming back to you in the next round, why not draft him at that point?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to reach for players. We're just saying, when you, what they call reach for a player, don't go 2-3 rounds early. To me, a reach is not somebody that you take a round earlier than what their ADP is. A reach to me is somebody that's going like in the third or the fifth round, and you take them in like the second or third round. That's a reach to me, personally.
Right. No, I agree. And if you're not drafting by tiers yet, I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
Right.
That's when you're having questions on players, especially when they're grouped together.
Right.
If you can separate them by tiers, you kind of know who's the better player then.
Right.
And who's going to give you more value, I should say.
Right. And like I said, thankfully, based on with our projections and statting stuff out, as well as with Matt Spencer, who's the genius behind the curtain. I mean, he's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Don't look behind the curtain.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know, but I want to give him a huge shout out on the show for this. I mean, he works tirelessly with numbers and digits and all the coding and everything. He does all that stuff and doesn't always get the recognition to the fantasy community. So if you don't already follow him at Matt Spencer, but it's MAAT Spencer, all one word. Follow him on Twitter. He's the mastermind in like the coding and all that. He's the one that he's like, oh, don't worry, I created an algorithm for this, and I created.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like try to act like I know half the time. Like a lot of times when he and I are texting back and forth, I'm like, all right, Matt, talk to me like I'm like a fifth grader.
Yeah,
I don't understand what you're telling me with all these codes.
Dumb it down a little bit for me.
A little bit, dumb it down, please. So, anyway, so shout out to him, and he's been the one. Like when we put our projections and statting stuff out, he's the one that takes it and runs with it and puts the tiers. He does the value over replacement players, which is more so like players in reference to players for like that may be available on waivers and stuff like that, as well as like in general. Like I said, if you go to averagejonation.com and you sign up $10, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. I mean, it's well worth the $10.
Right. And then on top of that, the writers are putting in articles. They're not just telling you players they like, they dislike. They're giving strong facts, reasons behind here. The guys you can get excited about, guys maybe you should wait on. There's just a ton in there. These guys are doing a ton of work, and we appreciate all the effort.
Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of we promote it out to you guys, but, I mean, they do a lot of the dirty work, and we appreciate every bit of the help that they give us. And, I mean, because we wouldn't even be close to where we are with the draft loadout if they were not helping and being a part of it as well. So
absolutely.
So articles, the draft projections, tiers, value over replacement player, all this stuff, as well as the rookie profiles are coming. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff and now that it's out, if you guys have something you want to see in it, submit it. Email us at thehateful8@yahoo.com. Say, hey, I got a question. Can you guys think you could do this? I know that I've already talked with Matt, and we're working on putting in the projections for the Scott Fish Bowl 9. So for people who are playing the Scott Fish Bowl 9, $10. You can get yourself some projections based on what the scoring is going to be. I mean, we're just waiting for the official scoring from Scott Fish himself. So
$10, people. That's it.
Just saying. So, all right. So that's all we got for today's show. Thanks for tuning into the show on the podcast or YouTube or even on DATV. Subscribe on the podcast YouTube if you haven't already. And like we said, for DATV, Friday nights 10:30, Sundays 4 p.m. afternoon. So you can check out our regular site still, thehateful8ff.com. Articles will start kind of rolling through now that the draft loadout has been released and all the hard work has been put into that. And you can also get your apparel that you see that we're wearing. We're going to start kind of rolling out some more ideas for the summertime maybe. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so hats will be coming eventually, actually. We're working on that as well. So the average donation, like I said, averagejonation.com. You can sign up for the loadout, $10 right now. The pre-order, unfortunately, is over. But you can still get for $10. It's not a bad deal. I mean, that was the biggest thing I've heard some of these people say is, I can't believe what I just got for $10. I mean, They're like, I've seen guys that are doing this exact same sort of stuff, and they're charging upper $20s, $30. And they said, to me, it's the basic what you need. And that's why we call it the average donation. We're not trying to like force feed you all this statistical data. You don't need to know that. You just need to know, what is this guy doing? What's his potential? And then you just show up at your draft, knock it out of the park, walk out, mic drop, and say, all right, I'll see you guys in December for the championship. I'm out.
That's it.
That's literally all it is for this. So you can follow me on Twitter at jpickle_th8ff. You can follow Trimboli at ftrimth8ff. And he's not here, but you can follow Blackburn at jblackburnth8ff.
He's currently burning as we speak.
He's currently burning on a beach somewhere, so we appreciate. Maybe we'll have him send a hello video for you guys sometime this week. Probably not. Anyways, so that's all we got for today's show. You guys got anything else? No, Blackburn? Okay, appreciate it.
Solid show, though.
A solid show. Lots of help. No, we do truly miss Blackburn. We appreciate
do, yeah.
But he definitely needed the vacay. Dude never takes time off, so
No.
we appreciate him. So
He's been working a ton. So
he has. So, alrighty. Anything else for you?
that's it.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.